As global circumstances shift, concerns over food security have surged to the forefront of public discourse. In an alarming forecast, the Federal Emergency Management Agency has highlighted potential food shortages that could grip the nation by 2025. Today's video dives deep into this pressing issue, offering viewers critical insights backed by extensive data and expert opinions. The potential for widespread food scarcity poses significant threats not only to individual households, but also to the broader economy and societal stability. FEMA's projections suggest that grocery store shelves may see the disappearance of vital staple items, leaving consumers scrambling to adapt to a new reality. This impending crisis is underpinned by a multitude of factors, including supply chain disruptions, climate change impacts on agriculture, and escalating demand for food resources. Central to this discussion are 8 specific grocery products that FEMA predicts may face the most severe shortages. In this video, we urge viewers to act now. Proactive measures can be taken to mitigate the effects of these shortages by understanding the root causes, potential impacts, and strategies for preparation. Individuals can better navigate the uncertainties ahead. As the video unravels the complex layers of this situation, it becomes clear that awareness and preparedness are paramount. It is imperative that we heed these warnings and take responsible actions to ensure food security for ourselves and our communities. Tier 8, corn and corn-based products. Countries like Ukraine, recognized as a significant player in global corn production, have seen their output plummet due to ongoing conflicts. The impact is profound, with the region contributing approximately 15% of the world's corn supply. As production dwindles amidst turmoil, prices are projected to surge, leading to heightened food insecurity. Compounding the situation is Russia's imposition of export restrictions driven by international sanctions. These measures have further strained corn availability on the global market, unleashing a domino effect that threatens food systems worldwide. The Food and Agriculture Organization has already warned of an anticipated 8% decline in global corn production, linking these drastic changes squarely to geopolitical instability. As supply becomes increasingly limited, not only do direct consumers of corn products feel the pinch, but entire agricultural economies are also threatened. Economic instability is another critical factor at play, particularly concerning inflation within the agricultural sector. In regions heavily reliant on corn farming, escalating costs for essential agricultural inputs, such as fertilizers, seeds, and machinery, have become the norm. U.S. farmers in particular are grappling with these increased expenses, which are destined to trickle down to consumers. As production costs rise, the price of end products, including cornmeal, corn syrup, and canned corn, is set to follow suit, making basic foods less accessible for many households. The ramifications of these shortages extend beyond individual products. The cascading effects of corn deficits will be felt in the livestock industry, as well as corn serves as a primary feed source. A shortage in corn supply will inevitably lead to decreased production of meat and dairy products, further driving prices up and exacerbating food inflation. This interconnectedness within the food supply chain underscores the precarious situation that corn shortages present next to broader food security. A stark reality emerges from these projections. Over 60% of countries are already reporting food price inflation rates exceeding 5%, thereby widening the gap between supply and access to staple items. Families reliant on corn-based products will face tough choices, navigating economic limitations while striving to maintain essential diets. The projected price hikes will not just burden families with increased grocery bills. They may also lead to shifts in dietary habits, as households may opt for cheaper, potentially less nutritious food alternatives. Therefore, addressing the challenges surrounding corn and corn-based products becomes a pressing imperative. Stakeholders, from governments to agricultural agencies and farmers, must collaborate to strategize solutions that bolster production and stabilize supplies. Exploring alternative crops, enhancing agricultural resilience, and investing in research and innovation can illuminate pathways towards mitigation. Additionally, fostering public awareness about food security and the significance of corn in the global diet can promote more sustainable practices and encourage proactive measures at the community level. 7. Rice. As the dietary foundation for more than half of the global population, rice's vulnerability to climate change, economic instability, and geopolitical tensions cannot be underestimated. Climate change is wreaking havoc on agricultural production. Extreme weather events such as floods, droughts, and unpredictable rainfall patterns are devastating crops. Major rice-producing countries like India, China, and Thailand have reported severe weather impacts, and recent predictions by the Food and Agriculture Organization warn of a potential 7% decrease in global rice production. Alongside environmental challenges, economic factors are compounding the risks associated with rice production. Recent inflation rates above 8% in critical regions have resulted in skyrocketing costs of production inputs, including seeds, fertilizers, and transportation. As these costs rise, they inevitably burden consumers through increased prices at the grocery store. For many families, this creates a precarious situation as maintaining food security becomes increasingly difficult, a phenomenon that is likely to worsen as economic pressures escalate. Moreover, the strategic decisions made by major rice exporting countries significantly influence global rice availability in a bid to secure local supply. Amid rising prices and production concerns, countries like India have implemented stringent export restrictions, including bans or quotas. India's decision to reduce its rice export volume by 20% serves as a stark reminder of how quickly market dynamics can shift. Such measures can not only lead to localized prices surging, but also have profound implications for nations reliant on imports for their rice supply. The interconnectedness of the global food system means that while one country focuses on domestic needs, others may suffer from acute shortages. As a consequence of these factors, the global rice price has seen a staggering increase of approximately 30% over the past year. Experts predict that without concerted efforts to stabilize production and trade, further price spikes are possible. These increases can push staple foods beyond the reach of vulnerable populations. Exacerbating the issue of food insecurity, agriculture experts and organizations warn that the prospect of a rice crisis could amplify food-related tensions in a world already grappling with various challenges. Lastly, logistical disruptions further threaten the rice supply chain. Labor shortages stemming from post-pandemic recovery efforts, coupled with transportation bottlenecks and port congestion, are stalling rice distribution globally. These logistical challenges not only delay the delivery of rice to markets, but also contribute to rising costs that consumers will inevitably face. As the situation escalates, it's evident that the consequences won't just affect rice, but could ripple through the entire food system, leading to broader food insecurity. 6. Meat and poultry. The interconnected challenges outlined paint a landscape fraught with uncertainty and potential crisis. Due to rising production costs and economic instability becoming increasingly prevalent, the meat and poultry supply chain faces unprecedented pressures that could lead to significant food shortages. One of the most pressing issues impacting this sector is the dramatic increase in feed prices, which the USDA reports has risen by over 20%. Given that feed constitutes a significant portion of the expenses involved in raising livestock, this rise directly affects farmers' ability to maintain their herds profitably. As input costs climb, many producers may be forced to make difficult choices, including downsizing their operations or even exiting the market altogether. This reduction in herd sizes could lead to less meat being available for consumers, exacerbating shortages and driving up prices further. Labor shortages are another critical concern. The North American Meat Institute has identified a 10% shortfall in the workforce within the meat processing industry. This shortage translates directly into production delays and reduced capacity, making it increasingly difficult for facilities to keep up with demand. Additionally, as the workforce struggles to meet the needs of the industry, remaining employees may face increased workloads, leading to higher stress levels and potential burnout. Such a climate does not bode well for productivity or employee retention, further complicating the industry's ability to respond to consumer demands. Logistical challenges are compounding these issues as well. Transportation bottlenecks and port congestion have increasingly hampered the timely distribution of meat and poultry products. As products struggle to move from farms to consumers, shortages can emerge in grocery stores, leaving shelves bare and consumers frustrated. Those sporadic shortages observed during recent supply chain disruptions could become a far more regular occurrence if these logistical issues remain unaddressed. This results in a cycle where scarcity drives prices higher, ultimately making meat and poultry less accessible to many households. Furthermore, food price inflation is a global concern that significantly impacts consumer purchasing power, with over 60% of countries experiencing inflation rates exceeding 5%. Individuals and families increasingly find themselves stretched financially. The rising cost of living often forces consumers to make tough decisions about their food choices, with meat and poultry products potentially being among the first items to be cut from grocery lists. As the affordability of these staples diminishes, the potential for increased malnutrition and dietary deficiencies escalates, marking a decline in public health over time. Lastly, the compounded effects of all these factors have led to significant price increases for meat products. Recent data indicates that beef prices have surged by 15% and poultry prices by 10% over the past year alone. If the current trajectory continues, consumers can expect to see even higher prices at the butcher counter as demand grows in the face of declining supply. 5. Use sugar. The looming sugar crisis projected for 2025 stems from a multitude of interconnected factors, each contributing to an alarming decline in availability. Not only are consumers facing the prospect of an everyday staple vanishing from grocery store shelves, but the economic implications of this shortage resonate across the global landscape. The confluence of supply chain strain, adverse weather conditions, soaring cost trade restrictions, labor shortages, logistical disruptions, and the resultant retail impact creates a scenario that demands immediate action. To begin with, the strain on the global sugar supply chain is particularly troubling. Economic instability and geopolitical tensions have reached unprecedented levels, exacerbating the already fragile supply networks necessary for sugar distribution. As major sugar-producing countries grapple with rising production costs, the pressures cascade down the supply chain, ultimately leading to higher prices for consumers. It is critical to recognize how global interdependence renders local markets vulnerable to disruptions originating thousands of miles away. Additionally, severe weather conditions have played a detrimental role in sugarcane yields. Countries like Brazil and India, key players in the global sugar market, have experienced a significant drop in production, over 20% in some regions due to extreme weather events. The repercussions of climate change manifest in unpredictable weather patterns, which jeopardize not only current yields but also future agricultural sustainability. This disruption of yields creates a bottleneck effect, leading to an acute shortage in the marketplace. Soaring costs in sugar-producing countries further compound these challenges. An inflation rate exceeding 10% has resulted in astronomical rises in agricultural input costs, which invariably leads to the passing of these expenses onto consumers. As costs increase, affordability plummets, leaving many individuals and families struggling to incorporate sugar into their diets, something that should, in theory, be an accessible commodity. Trade restrictions have also emerged as a pivotal factor in this unfolding crisis. Major producers like Brazil have taken measures to reduce sugar exports by approximately 15%, effectively tightening the global supply. These restrictions not only create a ripple effect for other nations reliant on sugar imports, but also contribute to the overall decrease in availability, driving prices higher as demand far outstrips supply. Compounding these factors are labor shortages that have seen a 12% shortfall in the agricultural workforce, leading to production delays and decreased capacity. As seasoned workers retire or migrate, there is a persistent challenge in attracting new labor to the agricultural sector, which is crucial for maintaining production levels. The lack of available manpower not only curtails the ability to harvest existing crops, but also prevents the planting of new fields, resulting in long-term supply issues. Logistical disruptions, including port congestion and shipment delays, further exacerbate the scarcity of sugar. The pandemic highlighted vulnerabilities in global supply chains, but ongoing challenges continue to obstruct the timely transportation of goods. Consumers are experiencing increased prices and reported shortages at grocery chains driven by disruptions that complicate the delivery of even basic necessities. For ED products, wheat products, integral to the daily diets of millions of Americans, are on the brink of significant shortages. The reliance on staples such as bread, pasta, and flour underscores a critical vulnerability within the food supply chain that demands immediate attention and proactive measures. One of the primary contributors to this impending crisis is the impact of the Ukraine conflict. Ukraine and Russia collectively account for nearly 30% of global wheat exports, making them key players in the international market. The ongoing conflict has caused a severe disruption in wheat production and exports, with approximately 10% of global supply being directly affected. Fields that once flourished with crops are now left unharvested, not only depriving local communities of food, but also sending shockwaves through the global market. The destruction of agricultural infrastructure further exacerbates the situation, as access to vital resources necessary for farming, such as equipment and seeds. In addition to the conflict influences, Russian agricultural exports are facing complications due to international sanctions. These sanctions have crippled Russia's ability to trade efficiently, creating additional pressure on already strained markets. With Russia being one of the largest exporters of wheat, these restrictions contribute to the escalation of global supply challenges, making it even more urgent for the United States to evaluate its own food security strategies. The decline in wheat production is further compounded by economic factors. Recent predictions indicate that global wheat production could decline by approximately 6%, while inflation rates in key wheat-producing regions exceed 10%. This inflation is not only affecting the cost of wheat at the source, but has a trickle-down effect that impacts farmers' operational costs. The rising prices of fertilizers, fuel, and other essential farming inputs lead to increased costs of production, which inevitably translate to higher prices for consumers. Transportation and logistical challenges add another layer of complexity to the wheat supply issue. Transportation bottlenecks and port congestions have plagued the movement of agricultural products over the past couple of years. Labor shortages, exacerbated by the pandemic and shifts in workforce dynamics, contribute to prolonged waiting times for shipments. These logistical hurdles can result in sporadic shortages of wheat products in grocery stores, leaving consumers facing higher prices and uncertain availability of necessary goods. An economic downturn characterized by skyrocketing inflation rates on food continues to strain household budgets across the nation. With more than 60% of countries experiencing food price inflation above 5%, many families are grappling with difficult choices. The diminishing purchasing power for essential items like wheat products can lead to significant disruptions in diet quality and nutritional intake, particularly for low-income families who are disproportionately affected by rising costs. 3, canned vegetables. Canned vegetables have long been a staple in pantries due to their convenience, long shelf life, and nutritional value. However, the impending supply chain vulnerabilities and economic pressures could limit accessibility and affordability. Understanding the intricacies involved in the canned vegetable sector is crucial for preparing for potential shortages. The strain on the supply chain for canned vegetables can primarily be attributed to a trifecta of economic instability, production costs, and logistical disruptions. Factors such as fluctuating commodity prices, increased labor costs, and sporadic raw material availability have led to a consistent rise in overall agricultural inputs. In the past year alone, the USDA has reported an increase of more than 15% in these costs, directly impacting the prices and accessibility of canned vegetables for the average consumer. Economic downturns and inflation have further exacerbated these challenges, diminishing purchasing power and causing food price inflation to exceed 5% over 60% of countries. Moreover, the ongoing labor shortages, particularly the pressing need for an estimated 80,000 trucking drivers, have compounded the issue. These shortcomings delay the delivery of goods, including essential pantry staples like canned vegetables. Transportation bottlenecks and port congestion are additional pressing logistical concerns that contribute to increased costs and shipment delays. The interdependency of these factors makes the supply chain exceptionally fragile, reinforcing the notion that consumers may face a limited selection of canned items in the near future. The impact of these supply chain issues extends beyond food shelves. Supermarkets are already grappling with inventory shortages and delayed deliveries. Consumers may find their typical brands or products unavailable, leading to increased reliance on alternatives or less desirable options. Store owners might resort to raising prices in response to inflated supply costs and limited availability, further alienating budget-conscious customers. Looking into the future, experts predict that unless significant improvements occur in the economy and logistics, the current trajectory could lead to ongoing scarcity and rising prices within the canned vegetable sector. Given these forewarnings, consumers are advised to embrace a proactive approach to their food procurement strategies. Families should consider diversifying their sources of nutrition beyond traditional canned options by exploring fresh, frozen, and dried alternatives. Garden cultivation or local farmers markets can also serve as viable options, allowing households to take a more sustainable approach to food consumption. While the prediction of food shortages may seem daunting, empowering communities through education and practical preparedness can mitigate some of the negative impacts. By advocating for sustainable food practices and increasing awareness regarding supply chain vulnerabilities, families can position themselves to adapt in challenging circumstances. 2. Dairy products. Several interconnected factors are anticipated to contribute to the scarcity of staple dairy items such as milk, cheese, and butter. Firstly, economic turmoil is creating an unstable environment for dairy production. The continuity of operations is heavily threatened by soaring costs and a loss of confidence in the industry's viability. Dairy farmers are grappling with financial strains compounded by severe supply chain disruptions, which have become increasingly common in recent years. The United States Department of Agriculture, DOSDE, has flagged a staggering 30% increase in dairy feed costs over the last year, a spike attributed primarily to shortages of essential crops, including soy and corn. These crops serve as critical components for livestock feed, and without them, the capacity of dairy farms to maintain herd sizes and production levels becomes severely hindered. The situation is pushing many dairy farmers to make difficult decisions, often leading to their exit from the industry entirely. As production capacity diminishes, the supply of dairy products is set to decline correspondingly. Moreover, notably alarming 15% workforce shortfall in dairy farming is exacerbating the situation. The shortage of skilled labor means that even existing dairy farms face challenges in maintaining production levels. Fewer workers lead directly to decreased milk production, which in turn impacts the processing industry. When these farms cannot meet production demands, the downstream effects can be felt throughout the supply chain, resulting in increased scarcity of dairy products on grocery store shelves. Logistical issues are compounding these challenges, primarily stemming from an 80,000 driver shortage that has resulted in significant delays in the distribution of dairy products. As suppliers struggle to transport their goods from farms to processing facilities and ultimately to retail outlets, the end product becomes increasingly difficult for consumers to access. This distribution crisis is a significant factor leading to the anticipated scarcity by 2025, making it clear that the reliance on already strained transportation systems is untenable. The macroeconomic climate adds another layer to this brewing storm. Food price inflation, which has surged past 8% globally, makes dairy goods increasingly unaffordable for many consumers. As more households feel the pinch of rising prices, the demand for dairy products naturally begins to shift. Dairy staples such as milk, cheese, and butter are traditionally considered essential, but as their costs escalate, milk prices alone having increased by over 25%. These items may begin to be viewed as luxury goods, a shift that could have profound implications for nutrition and food security. As these predictions unfold, it becomes imperative for stakeholders within the agricultural sector, policymakers, and consumers to take proactive steps. Without intervention, the consequences of these predictions could lead to a significant redefinition of food staples in the American diet. Ensuring sustainable practices, investing in workforce training, and enhancing logistical frameworks may help mitigate some of these anticipated challenges. Ultimately, understanding and preparing for these impending shortages is not just prudent. It is essential to the future of food availability across the nation. The time to act is now, or these predictions could become unavoidable realities for countless communities. Sunflower oil. The ongoing conflict in Ukraine, a central player in global sunflower production, has triggered significant supply shortages that threaten to disrupt the market. With Ukraine contributing nearly half of the world's sunflower oil, any instability in this region ripples across global supply chains, leading to heightened concerns about food security. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, UNFAO, has projected a staggering 20% decline in global sunflower oil production over the next year. This sharp reduction is not just an isolated incident. It reflects broader trends that are likely to escalate as resource scarcity and geopolitical conflicts continue to shape agricultural outputs. Countries dependent on sunflower oil for cooking and processing are already feeling the impacts as consumers face restricted choices and rapidly rising prices. The ripple effects of this decline can extend well beyond just sunflower oil, influencing other edible oils and food products that rely on sunflower ingredients. Indeed, the price of sunflower oil has soared by an alarming 25% over the past year. Such increases are likely to create hardships for households, making it difficult for families to afford basic cooking oils, thus exacerbating food insecurity issues. Economically vulnerable populations will be hit hardest, facing the weight of escalating costs without corresponding increases in income. The ability to access affordable and nutritious food will be compromised, potentially leading to an upsurge in health issues associated with poor nutrition. Compounding these challenges are increased production costs resulting from inflation rates that have surpassed 10% in key sunflower producing countries. The financial burden on farmers has risen due to the escalating prices of seeds, fertilizers, and fuel. This economic strain could push smaller farms out of business or force them to reduce planting areas, further exacerbating the supply shortages projected for the coming years. Logistical challenges also play a critical role in the sunflower oil crisis. Transportation bottlenecks, stemming from a combination of labor shortages and deteriorating infrastructure, have caused significant delays in shipments. These difficulties hinder the movement of oil from production sites to consumers, leading to increased retail prices. The backlogged supply chains mean that even when oil is available, getting it to market becomes a complex ordeal that often results in inflated costs. Moreover, geopolitical tensions are reshaping trade dynamics, making it essential for nations to prioritize domestic supplies over international trade. This strategy, while aimed at combating shortages, can further limit market availability and deny access to nations reliant on sunflower oil imports. Countries may find themselves scrambling to secure alternative sources or substitute oils, often leading to higher prices and potential quality compromises. Experts are sounding the alarm about the predicted future volatility of the sunflower oil market and its consequences. As geopolitical and economic conditions continue to oscillate, the potential for ongoing price increases along with further supply disruptions remains high. The urgency to act is clear. Consumers need to prepare for tighter market conditions and higher prices that could significantly impact the food supply chain. The looming threat of food shortages by 2025, as highlighted by FEMA's assessments, requires immediate and decisive action from all stakeholders within the food supply chain. The interplay of rising costs, geopolitical conflicts, and logistical challenges presents a perfect storm that could redefine access to essential food items for millions of consumers. To avert these impending crises, proactive measures must be adopted, including enhancing domestic agricultural production, investing in resilient supply chains, and prioritizing sustainable practices. Consumers too must remain vigilant, adjusting their purchasing patterns while advocating for policies that support food security. The time for complacency has passed. Collective efforts are needed now to ensure that the food systems that nourish our communities do not falter in the future. Without concerted action, the stark reality of food scarcity could be an unavoidable fate we cannot afford to ignore.